In a hidden corner of an Asheville shelter, an old dog named Echo lies curled up on a thin blanket, his dull eyes silently observing the passersby. No one knows much about his past, only his worn fur and the faint scar on his hind leg. The staff named him Echo because he never barks or wags his tail. Every night when all the noise dies down, Echo sighs. It is not the sigh of exhaustion, but the sound of a heart still waiting for something it thought it had forgotten. Late in the afternoon, as the drizzle fell silently on the tin roof of the shelter, a man appeared at the door. His old army jacket was worn at the shoulders, and his cap covered most of his face, which had been eroded by the years, but the long scar on his left cheek was still visible. His name was Marcus, a veteran who had lived alone since his discharge. Holding an old photo in his trembling hand, he asked in a hoarse voice, "Is there a dog like this around here?" Emily, the shelter employee, was stunned when she saw the photo. A young German shepherd head held high beside the very man standing before her. Marcus lowered his head, his voice choked. "I lost him in a forest fire in Montana, years ago. Despite his faint hope, he still came here because loyalty never disappears. It only rests in memory." Marcus walked silently along the long corridor, where the din of dogs barking echoed through the air. Despite the constant barking and pounding of hooves against the cages, all he could hear was his own pounding heart. Each step toward the end of the corridor felt heavier, burdened by years of waiting and nameless anxiety. As he stopped at the last cage, his gaze met a familiar pair of eyes, quiet eyes that held so many fond memories. Echo lay curled up, seemingly too exhausted to care about the world. But when the old eyes appeared, the dog raised his head slightly. Their eyes met, a look that carried the past. No need for a call, no need for any words. In that brief moment, all the surrounding noise seemed to be erased. Only two souls that once belonged to each other remained silently recognizing each other. Echo didn't bark, just leaned forward slightly, her tail starting to wag, like a miracle was coming to life. Marcus knelt, his hands trembling as he clung to the cold bars of the last cage. Before him, the old dog with its gray fur and once dead eyes stared at him unblinkingly. The air was thick, as if breathing too hard would destroy the moment. He bowed his head, then spoke, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Max, it's me, Max." The name rang out like a mantra. Echo, or rather Max, shuddered. At first it was just a slight shiver, then his long drooped ears perked up. He jumped up, legs, shaking eyes in disbelief. And then, a choked howl broke out, not a bark of joy, but a heart-wrenching cry. The sound echoed throughout the camp, causing all the staff in the room to stop. A young girl cleaning nearby dropped the towel in her hand. The manager, accustomed to all kinds of reunions, stood still, his hand on his chest, as if trying to calm himself. Max pressed his nose against the bars, sobbing as if releasing a world of buried memories. Marcus pressed his hand against the same spot, choking with emotion. There was no longer the distance of time between them, only a feeling that had never been lost. Alive again, stronger and more complete than ever. In the deep silence between Marcus and Max, memories suddenly rushed back like an unannounced storm. That night, the night everything in Marcus's life changed forever. A fire broke out in the dilapidated kitchen of a wooden house on the edge of town. The fire alarm blared, and black smoke billowed like a ghost swallowing every exit. Marcus called out for Max in a panic as the house collapsed. He remembered the numb feeling of being dragged away from the fire by his neighbors, his hand still clutching Max's empty necklace, the only thing left. After the fire, Marcus lived like a shadow. He printed hundreds of flyers, went from camp to camp. Each glimpse of Max made his heart ache, but then he was disappointed. People told him to give up, that the dog must be dead, but Marcus couldn't. Every night in his makeshift apartment, he kept the window cracked, a bowl of water on the porch, as if Max would return at any moment. And Max somewhere survived too, wandering hungry and abandoned. But he never forgot Marcus, never forgot his voice, his warm hands, or the afternoons spent lying on the carpet listening to music with his master. Now, looking into Max's tear-filled eyes, Marcus knew, even though the fire had burned everything, that love and loyalty had never been lost. They had survived the lonely years, and now, at last, they had found each other again. The cage door clicked softly as the guards slowly unlocked it. The air seemed to freeze. Marcus stood there not daring to breathe, his eyes fixed on the thin, trembling figure behind the bars. Echo, or rather Max, took a slow step forward. Her legs were stiff with fear, but her eyes were fixed on the familiar man. A sob escaped Marcus's throat as Max took a step forward, then another, as if testing to see if this was real. And then, when they were only an arm's length away, Max threw himself into Marcus's arms as if all the years of pain had melted away in that moment. Marcus knelt down and hugged Max, his arms tightly around him. The back of his shirt was soaked with tears his own, and perhaps Max's, who had learned to endure silently over the years. No words can fully describe the emotion in that embrace. It was not just a reunion, but a forgiveness, for fate, for lost time, and for the pain they had shared. In that moment, broken hearts were mended, and faith, thought to have died in the long, lonely nights, was rekindled. Marcus signed each signature with a trembling voice as if he still couldn't believe this miracle was real. But the final paper was submitted, the seal was affixed. Echo, now Max again, officially belonged to him, not just in memory, but in law and in heart. The rain had just stopped. Pale rays of sunlight filtered through the gray clouds, illuminating the wet dirt road in front of the camp gate. Marcus stepped out holding the leash, but not needing it. Max didn't need to be pulled anymore. The dog walked silently beside him, his steps slow but determined. No one said anything, but the eyes of the camp staff seeing them off were filled with admiration and emotion. Marcus bent down and gently stroked Max's head, whispering, "Let's go home." And they walked side by side as if time had never separated them. Max's old tail swayed slowly, not as vigorously as before, but with a rhythm of deep peace. A journey ended not with tears, but with the simplest happiness being together forever. The touching story of Marcus and Max Echo is not only a reunion between man and dog, but also a testament to the enduring power of loyalty, love, and hope. Through years of separation, pain, loss, and despair, the two never lost faith that one day they would find each other again. The most profound message from this story is that true connection is never broken by time or circumstance. Sincere love, whether between human and human or between human and a loyal creature, can overcome even the most severe challenges. The story also reminds us to cherish the relationships that were once our whole world. Don't be quick to give up or forget, because sometimes just a look, a name, an embrace is enough to revive all the memories and emotions that we thought were lost. In a world full of change and hustle, hold on to the truths, for they are the ones that bring the most lasting peace in life.